The facade is like the building's business card. A beautifully designed architectural solution combined with high-quality execution can significantly enhance the value of the building and its surrounding environment. This applies not only to ensuring the building's longevity and improving the aesthetics of public spaces, but also to influencing usage or purchase decisions. Facade work on the construction site will begin after the completion of the erection work. The volume of facade work can vary greatly, depending on the project, the architecture of the building, the materials of the facade cladding, the factory readiness, and other circumstances related to the materials and the execution of the work. In the case of factory houses, it is important to use such facade cladding materials, where it is possible to install most of the facade on the external walls of buildings already in the factory. Many house manufacturers therefore consider the use of wooden boards, and especially horizontal boards, as the most suitable solution for external cladding. In this case, only the horizontal joints between the elements remain to be formed on the construction site. With horizontal boards, it is easy to form the joints so that they remain unnoticeable on the facade. Depending on the architecture of the building, the vertical joints between the elements may also remain visible. This solution is used to make the facade appear more expressive, for example, when there is a large, smooth wall surface. In the case of articulated walls, vertical joints may remain at the corners of protruding elements. However, an architectural solution may also be envisaged where a unique rhythm is created on the building's facade with protruding elements, which automatically hides the joints between the elements. In the case of buildings with vertical wooden cladding, the vertical joints between the elements can be conveniently covered on site, but the horizontal joints may remain visible if the building is more factory-built. If the architecture of the building requires that the horizontal joints of the vertical timber cladding are not visible to the eye, then a large part, or even the entire facade, must be installed after the building has been erected on site. In this case, there is significantly more site work, and the building elements are exposed to the weather for a longer period of time. Another factor that makes a vertical wood cladding solution more complex than a horizontal cladding solution is the need to use crossing battens behind the cladding. This must be taken into account if the project requires fire protection solutions behind the facade. In addition to wooden boards, various types of panel materials are also common for facade cladding in factory buildings, both cement-based panels and composite panels. In the case of a facade with board materials, the proportion of site work is usually higher than in the case of a wooden facade. Often, the entire external cladding is installed on the construction site. The reason is that there is a risk of damaging the board during transport and multiple lifts, especially if it is a custom-made material, and the transport routes are long and multiple lifts are necessary. For example, in the case of modular buildings, if the construction site is located in another country. If the tile cladding is, for example, custom-made, facade cladding that is damaged during transport may cause delays in the handover of the object and additional costs. In simpler cases, such as renovation work with factory-made wooden panels, the pre-insulated elements are covered with a board covering at the factory. Factory-made readiness is also higher if the construction site is located in the same country where the elements are produced, or if the technical solutions are such that damage to the wall elements during lifting work is excluded. Metal plates or solutions based on a plaster system are less commonly used on the facades of factory buildings. To enhance the appearance of buildings, architectural solutions may also provide for facades that use a variety of cladding materials. Cement-based boards are more often combined with wooden boards, but metal, glass, and other materials are also used to give the building a more unique appearance. Horizontal and vertical wooden boards are also often combined. All different facade coverings require different working methods and assembly solutions. Therefore, during site work, you must always be guided by both the working drawings in the project documentation and the installation solutions provided by the facade covering manufacturer. For typical facades, which are either horizontal or vertical boards, house manufacturers have usually developed their own standard solutions. However, for facades with different features, such as composite bores, specific project joints must be created that take into account both the building architecture and the requirements of the material manufacturer. In the case of prefabricated houses where the intermediate floor consists of a single element, and the wall elements are factory installed with horizontal timber boarding, additional insulation and ceiling work must be carried out on the construction site adjacent to the floor element. A wind barrier, vertical battens and boards at the joint must be installed. Depending on the project, the solutions may also be different. If the facade is intended to be a vertical board and the modules or elements have vertical lining pre-installed at the factory, it may be necessary to install a metal window sill at the joint of the floor slab to drain rainwater flowing down the facade together with the supporting structure, and insulation and ceiling work must also be carried out between the joints. Facade work on a construction site may also include covering the corners of the building with facade cladding material. This work is usually necessary for planar element houses, while for modular houses, it depends on the architectural design of the building whether the modules and the external corners of the modules can be formed in the factory or must be done on the construction site. External corners, as well as other joints between elements, must be airtight. For example, if the wind barrier roll material is not wrapped around the corner, then a special tape or mastic must be used to seal the corners. High-quality and precisely executed facade work ensures both the proper appearance and the longevity of the building. It is also important to remember that any corrections or repairs later on can be very costly, especially for multi-story buildings where access to the facade is limited. Therefore, when it comes to facades, careful execution and strict quality control are equally crucial.